Hello, this is Unkind Omen, and today we are continuing with the stream for new players who have joined EVE Online as alpha characters or as omega characters but have not yet skilled anything special from omega tier. And this is a part of series of streams that I am making to show off the initial tutorials, the basics of interface, the gameplay that is associated with different playstyles like combat, exploration, industry. And today I plan to continue with final of 5 training agents, the advanced military career, and after that I will show some basics of hauling across New Eden, and let's see how much time we will have after that. So, as usually, I am claiming the bonus rewards that we have from elections to CSM, Council of Stellar Management 16 already. This is an organization that is representing players to developers and opinion of players of different groups, nullsects, wormhole alliances, and other players, even those who live in high-sec space and even those who have just started, because CCP wants to hear opinions of players on different changes that happen in the game before they are actually inside the gameplay. So yeah, and then we get 20,000 interstellar credits for today's login bonus. You probably have noticed that day 4 reward has been claimed. I had a very short stream yesterday. I didn't do any progression. Instead, I just logged in briefly to show one of the novice pilots how to use drones with their starter frigate. Unfortunately, for Minmatar ships, the combat frigates that we are given do not actually have drone capability. So I will not, at the moment, make a proper guide on how to do that. But maybe once we are somewhere at destroyer level, I need to check, maybe I can see if destroyers already have some drones, then I will show how to use drones and how to set up some drone groups and deploy, and which shortcuts should you use to use them. So here on the left panel, you can see that I'm now again in the fitting menu, and this is a very useful database. So if you click on this button, simulate fit, you will be able to see actually not only your current ship, but hypothetically what could be done to this hull, how it will affect the the stats of the ship, different properties. If you can toggle different modules in between offline, online, and overheated modes. And yeah, you can also here pick those hulls. In this case, I'm having I think some filter that only allows me, yeah, it filters hulls only that I can fly, so I see very limited amount of ships now available to me. But if I disable, oh no, actually it was only showing off community fittings. Okay, so yeah, if I disable this, then I can see all possible different hulls, and I can test, even then that I cannot really fly this ship, I can see how it would look with my skills and how I can fit it and look at the properties. And also it will show which skills I'm currently missing to fly the ship. So in this case it says that I need about 1.5 months to train just to be able to sit on the ship, not even to mention that I need to actually be able to fly it well. So let's filter by hulls that I can fly, and let's go to 2 of the available Minmatar destroyers. So one is Talvar and the other one is Treasure. I think Treasure might have some. No. And Talvar has no drone bay either. You can see if your ship is capable of flying any drones by checking if this drone bay hold has any volume in it. So if you have 0 here, then, well, sorry, no drones for this ship. But if it was, for example, Galente ship, if I didn't enable consideration for skills, for a Galente destroyer, I think, yeah, Algos is actually a dedicated drone ship, and you can see that it has drones. Well, in such case, I think we will wait for some time, or at some point I will just train a few Galente frigate or Galente destroyer skills, just to use some drones and show some skills and how to do that. But today let's continue with the military career agent. I have still this industry career mission from the previous stream. I need to complete the manufacturing of the burst frigate, as usually in the jobs tab, and you can see how the whole industry thing works in the previous stream. It is available on YouTube channel with timestamps, so you can look up how I started this process, and actually a lot of different production cycles as well. And let's hope that I can. Yeah, now I can complete it. Okay, now it's done, and we have only advanced military career left. Let's see. So this mission requires us to just wipe hostile vessels. Okay. Let's probably start by fitting a little bit more suitable ship for this activity. So I will strip fitting from the slashers that I have been flying before, and I will use Rigter. The Rigter hull is a little bit more dedicated towards combat. It has, I think, 1 extra slot, or actually maybe the same slot configuration, but it has 3 guns and 3 high slots, and then 3 medium slots, so there is no 1 extra slot if you would have had that we had on Slasher, but we have now 2 extra low slots. And these 2 extra low slots can be used to maximize our damage on this ship. So first of all we need guns. I will still use those 125mm Gatlings. I see no reason to really cherry pick something different at the moment. And I will stick with 1 meganewton autoburner for our main propulsion system. You can see that Rigter is slower than Slasher, almost 20% slower. But at the same time, okay, this one is civilian explosive. We probably want to find a slightly better version of this. Is it so that civilian one is so special? Yeah, it would not show me the variations because civilian one is not actually a variation of a shield hardener, which is what this module is. Okay, never mind, let's go to regional market and first look what kind of modules are available here on this station. Probably there should be something basic like that. So we're looking for ship equipment tab, and then shield hardeners, and we are looking for explosive shield hardeners because this is the resistance that we are looking for. Now here we have this one is not available, the compact one is available, enduring one is not, and Tech 2 version is not available either, but it is also so much expensive that we really don't want it. Well, let's use the compact one. Yes, it's a little bit overpriced, but again, the prices are not that expensive here. This booster. And if we press simulate, we can see how these modules together affect our resistances. So you can see that now with this module on, our resistance ups from 50 to 72%, so almost another half of the damage will be cut. And if you compare it to civilian version, then you can see that it's much less, it gives much less resistances to explosive damage. And once again, I remind you that we are using explosive damage resistances because Angel pirates are primarily dealing damage with explosive element, let's say. Okay, we don't need to restore anything, we can just exit simulation. And we need to use fusion, because they also have vulnerability in the explosive damage type. And fusion is exactly the charge, the ammunition type that we need to use if we want to have fusion. If we want to have explosive damage. You can check damage type of every ammo by going into Attributes tab. So right click, show info, attributes. And here you can see that this one deals almost all of its damage into explosive and a little bit of kinetic, which is also a slight weakness in Angel ships. And then for EMP, we have drastically different situation. You can see that EMP does a lot of damage in the actual electromagnetic type. And both of these charges are short range because they give us minus 50% to optimal range of our guns. Now, so how to fill those low slots? The first thing that we need to do here, and it is very important when you want to do PvE mission, you want to make sure that you have as sustainable tank as possible. And you can see that at the moment our capacitor's indication here says that it will deplete in 34 seconds. Effectively, our ship is very low on capacitor regeneration. This is something that I have mentioned before. This is a real problem and a real annoyance for basically every type of tanking that you do with active boosters. Unfortunately, there is no way around that unless you are using this kind of module. So this one says small ancillary shield booster. This one does not consume energy out of your capacitor. Instead, if we use this calculator and drag it here, you can see that it just, okay, in this particular case, because it is out of charges, it will consume something. But if we will add some charges like these ones, you can see that our system becomes stable immediately. And this will have two capacitor boosters, so it will be able to run for 2 cycles with these boosters, and it will give 52 health points every 2 seconds. So it will do 2 cycles by consuming 1 capacitor booster on each cycle, and after that it will either start reloading charges, producing no regeneration of shields, or it will start consuming capacitor. So this is a module that allows us to actually shield tank without draining a lot of our capacitor, and this is a good one. But since we don't have it available, and since in some cases you really don't want to do this kind of hardcore reloading stuff because it requires a little bit of skilled management for your shield system, instead we will try to balance this capacitor deficiency. So at the moment it says that we are down minus 5.9 gigajoules per second. So normal way to increase capacitor regeneration with the low slots is by using something like capacitor flux coil. So we need to first click on hardware and modules and select low slot, because we want to only select modules that we can fit on the low slot. And we go into engineering, and then we have 2 types of modules. So capacitor flux coil is a module that, as you can see, from the changes in the numbers. It reduces the capacitor capacity, the full amount of energy that we have, but at the same time it increases our regeneration time significantly. And you can see that our absolute regeneration increases a lot with this. At the other side, there is capacitor power relay. The capacitor power relay does not doesn't reduce the capacitance. So yeah, so the penalty for using capacitor power relay is that you will be reducing the amount of regeneration that you have. So you can see that at the moment we have 15 health per second, and then it goes to 13.5. So this one is not good either. And there is another module that gives a little bit of different stats, that is power diagnostic system. This one increases capacitor capacity, capacitor recharge, power grid bonus, which is the amount of energy you have here in the power grid. And also it increases the absolute amount of shield health points. So this is like universal improve everything module. But you can see it also doesn't really affect our sustainability of our capacitor well a lot. Finally, beyond low slots, we also have these rig slots, and these rig slots are quite powerful when it turns when it goes for the question of energy stability, because there you can actually add rigs, this capacitor control circuit 1 and capacitor control circuit 2. Both of them reduce capacitor regeneration time. So if we will fit 3 of them, which is perfectly possible, you can see that we are almost already reaching the stability of our capacitor. Now, if we leave it like that and go into power diagnostic system, then we need maybe just one Mark 1 compact power diagnostic system to just finish our capacitor balancing. Okay, this one is very expensive. Do we have cheaper one? Yes, we have cheaper one. And then do we have this? Okay, and here you can see that yeah, the capacitor control circuit rigs on this station are quite overpriced. This is not their real value. Also, it says that energy grid upgrades 2 is required. And as I mentioned before, because I'm now having remap or stats that are favoring training of ships and guns, I have much slower training of engineering skills and industry skills. So instead of training this, I will instead just apply skill points. And it requires 2,329 skill points of the 39,000 that I have from just daily bonuses and login bonuses. Well, it seems that it's not really a good idea to fit ship here. Let's just forget about this. And let's take our ship on a small trip to the local trading hub. So in the upper left, we will search for HEC. HEC is a solar system which contains basically the trading hub in Minmatar space. There is another slightly smaller hub in Rens, which is in this region, but I think we really don't need to care because HEC is just 2 jumps away actually. And now I don't remember which one of these stations is what we need to, so I will just set destination to the HEC, and then I will add waypoint back to this station and do undock, and let's fly a little bit to the training to the market and buy some proper modules there. You can see that HEC is located in Metropolis region, and this is the reason why, although it is just 2 jumps away, we will not be able to see any items sold in hack before we actually jump through the Stargate to Metropolis. So once we do that, we will see different orders in this panel. A few comments again about the capacitor and capacitor regeneration. So this panel here is your basically bread and butter when you are talking about PvE ships, because in PvE, contrary to PvP ships, you really want your capacitor to be stable. And in some cases you want also it to be stable with some extra amount of capacitor regeneration, which is denoted by this delta, so that if NPC ships or towers use what is called energy neutralizing effects on you, they will not be able to break your capacitor regeneration, so you will always have sustainable capacitor. This is especially true for some abyssal fitting and some high-level missions like level 4 and level 5 missions, where you will be able, where you will meet constant neutering by different ships. And this is one of the reasons why, for example, Ancillary shield boosters are so good for players that do this kind of content. Because in principle, for Minmatar ship, you really can fly ship that does not use any capacitor by using just these autocannons, which don't consume energy, so they don't need one. And you can fly with empty energy storage and shoot still. Same goes to rockets and drones, but with slight modifications, so that we will have, instead of active resistance that consumes even a little bit but still consumes some energy, we will have some passive resistances and an auxiliary shield booster to make sure that we have an always energy to, well, basically energy in form of those batteries stored in our cargo. Okay, so we don't need these modules. Let's go back to the simulation and let's again see what we have in the market. So capacitor power relay 1 is available, Mark 1 compact is available, Type D also is available. But you can see that Type D, for example, is much more expensive because it actually offers better properties, better characteristics. So we are especially interested not in shield boost, but capacitor recharge. Oh yeah, this is power relay, sorry. I was thinking that I looked at power diagnostic. So yeah, we need this one. And you can see that this is basically the Tech 1, and then this is the meta version, and they will probably have similar boosts. Okay, now the meta version still provides a little bit better properties, so we use Mark 1, and then back to the rigs. This is something that we can offer. Yeah, the problem with rigs is that they are one-time use modules, so once you have them installed, they will be, and we can even get away with just one Mark 1 compact power, yeah. Once you have them installed, they are basically lost. If you do anything with this hull, if you try to remove them, they will be destroyed. If you try to replace them, they will be destroyed. If you repackage this hull, they will be destroyed. So these modifications are basically plug in and you lost it. But they give bonuses while they are plugged in. So now the final 3 slots, and this is where this ship really shines towards compared to Slasher, and this is why this is more a combat frigate rather than a tackle frigate in case of Slasher, is these extra 3 slots. And here we use weapon upgrades. Weapon upgrades, as I told earlier, are modules that give damage bonus and rate of fire bonus to guns. And you can see that we have ballistic control systems. These work on missile launchers, and troop radiation things that work on Triglavian guns. Gyro stabilizers is what we are looking for. Heatsinks work on MR guns. Magnetic field stabilizers work on hybrid guns for Galanti and Caldari. Missile guidance enhancers work as similarly to tracking computers that we have been using in the previous streams, but they go into low slot and they are not scriptable, they are passive modules. And then tracking enhancers are also, and these work for missiles, and then tracking enhancers work again similar to tracking computer but without script and passive, and they go to low slot, but for guns. So we are looking at these ones. I think we would like to use one because we actually had one tracking computer previously, and then we want to have two gyro stabilizers. So let's see if we have enough resources. And yeah, we still have enough CPU and power grid to feed these. And all together, these two modules up our damage from 40.7 damage per second upwards to 56.7. So we increase it by about 40%. That's a lot of improvement actually towards our ship. And that's much better for a frigate. If we were to look for maximum damage, we could have just placed 3 of these gyro stabilizers here, but the problem is that there is stacking penalty. So this module gives us 100% of its properties, and then this one gives only 86%. And when you consider that these are still multiplicative bonuses, so this makes fine. This works out fine. So we have basically 40 plus 8, and then we have another 8 from the second one. But if we were to add the third one, then we would have seen that it only increases by 6. So at this point, even though there is a multiplicative effect between these modules, then still the penalty is already so high that you really don't want to add the third one. Also, you can see that adding the third gyro stabilizer actually overloads our CPU, which is indicated by this -12 and this blinking, and if you will try to fit, some modules would have ended up offline. So in this case, we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to use tracking enhancer. Tracking enhancers are really nice for min-matar ships. Tracking computers are probably even better, but still, in this particular case, we need those medium slots to provide shield tanking. We cannot really afford to put a tracking computer there. Okay. Now, in the simulation, what you can do after you have placed this, all these modules together, you can save feeds. So when you press this Save As button, you can give a name to this feed. So let's name it Basic Angel Combat Drifter. And it will save this whole list of information. It will say that, okay, we want to have EMP, fusion, these rigs, these low power slots, these medium slots, and these guns. And we save it. And now it is available here under our personal fittings. So if we have this removed and we just click personal fittings, you will see the list of all ships for which you have personal fittings saved. But if you press this Basic Angel Combat, then yeah, it will reload this whole feed. Now what you can do with that, you can press Fit Ship, and it will try to fit your currently selected ship, which is the same hull, with these modules. Now it says that, yeah, we have saved rigs, and it warns us that they will be basically, they cannot be removed. This is the important statement, and you need to be careful with that. And we say, yes, we want to fit rigs. Now it says that, yeah, okay, if you want to do that, you are missing these parts. You need to have these components in your cargo, and you don't. So what it offers us to buy it all from the market. So we press Buy All, and it takes us through this shopping screen again. And you can see that, yeah, Compact Tracking Enhancer is overpriced. these cherry stabilizers are also quite overpriced. But still, this is within our budget, so I would say, why not? We don't plan to die with this ship, and this will make the process of flying these combat missions much, much more pleasant. So we're pressing buy and fit. It again reminds us that we are fitting rigs. And here we go. So just as easy as that, we now have all the modules fitted into our ship. All the difference was bought from the hangar. And we can see that, yeah, we now have some fusion here. One thing, basically we don't really need to have any other charges, but normally it's a good idea to have maybe at least EMP and phased plasma charge, which gives kinetic and thermal damage, just in case during the mission you will end up shooting at NPC that has different weakness spot than explosive. So we are going to look for show info, used with, and we will look up phased plasma on the market, and we will buy, let's say, 1000 of them, just in case we need. Okay, yeah. Now you can see the boarding. So the game just stopped me from accidentally buying a remote order, because this one says system, not station, and we really want to buy things on our station. But in this case, this is just one, basically just undock and go to this destination. And this I choose you market and industry are the people that I know of, at least I heard, and I don't expect that there will be any scam orders that I will not be able to redeem. So I will just go there. Location, dock. If at any point in the game you will buy something remotely, like somewhere in a different region, maybe even via contract or several jumps away, and you don't remember which station it was, you can press this personal assets, and this personal assets screen will give you information about everything that you own in the game universe. So it will have this list of stations under which you have different ships and modules and materials, and it will tell you how far away this particular station is. And you can see, yeah, in this case this one is highlighted because it's on my autopilot route. So if you have something lost, you can find it here. Also, you can have it, you can look for items within the same region, within the same constellation, within just the same solar system, or you can search through this. If you, for example, have such a big list that you no longer can do this normally by just browsing through it, you might find, if I want to find my slasher, for example, I can just type slasher and press enter. And you can see that my slasher is located at the station where I'm heading, so it's fine. The last tab here is the asset safety items. Those you will not have items there unless you will have some items on a player station, and you will trigger yourself asset safety due to you being unable to access that station, or due to that station being destroyed actively by some other players, or by basically removing, if the owner of that station removed it. So it will then trigger asset safety for you, and you will see all the items that have been there located in some asset safety container. One important thing about inventory interface that I failed to explain in previous streams. So when you start the game and when you first dock at the station, you will have this kind of interface. Basically, the hangar of the station, some just 3D model, just some ships flying in the background, and your active ship in the center. Now, if you double click the active ship, you will open the inventory of your active ship. If you double click on the background, you will still do the same. Now, how to access items that are stored on this station? Because I want, for example, currently to load items from item hangar that I just bought into my ship. So here is this button on the left that says inventory. It is also accessible, I think, yeah, here from this menu. In case you accidentally deleted it, here. This one is available also. And default shortcut is left Alt and C. When you press that, you will have another window. This one only shows, this one shows the items in the ships which are located in this station here, ship hangar, and then it has all items that are available in this hangar. And then it also has this deliveries hangar. This one you will interface with if you will, for example, buy something using corporate wallet, or if your corporation delivers something to you, or if another player uses contract to deliver items to you, so you might find something here as well. What is a good thing to do when you have these interfaces is to left click on this gear icon and select always show full tree. This, as you can see, have immediately changed the state of this window. So when I press active ship, when I'm just clicking on background towards the active ship, I will also see this left side panel for items and ships. And I will be able to actively select another ship or do something with items on the station. Now let's head back with our freshly combat readied Rigter. Let's relocate a little bit modules. It's usually a good idea to have the main active modules, like F1 is usually guns, and then F2 and 3 are propulsion module, and then you have your tanking modules, and maybe all your modules that you need to toggle, but you don't really want to activate them constantly in the combat, like resistances and tracking computers and stuff. Then you want to have them on a second line. Here also you can use these 3 lines options, for example, to display empty slots. If I had any empty slots in my fitting, it would also still show them. Or I can also hide passive modules by unchecking this display passive modules. So now these 4 modules which were completely passive and I don't have any way to interface with them except for putting them offline, I can make them disappear. What I usually do, I take these passive modules and just drag them away from my active modules so they don't clutter things, they don't take space here, don't distract me, but they are still interfaceable if I need to, well, put them offline for some reason. Especially that is true for the ships where I have some extra modules which are normally offline. Because these passive modules, especially damage dealing modules, are the ones that you probably will take offline first. Because they are less critical than your propulsion module, for example. Advanced military. Accept. And let's check some pirates. Warp to location using this left panel. This is a convenient shortcut to old style. Right click and then select the mission and then column to dead space. This is where you want to end up. And I will enable resistances right away. And actually, because I now have capacitor stability, I can just toggle the booster to run continuously. I will not run out of capacitor. A few other things that you can do to improve your capacitor recharge are hardwirings, which give you some % of capacitor regeneration and capacitor capacity. And then another thing is what is called Genelution set. This is a set of implants that as a new player you might want to have, but it is quite expensive, I think, nowadays. Also, probably you don't need the whole set, but at least even individual implants will do. Like having 4 of the set will provide you with a lot of extra CPU and power grid, and at the same time it will give you some capacitor regeneration and I think shield regeneration. And as you can see, I'm now wiping out enemies, basically. Okay, I was a little bit overly optimistic about my capacitor stability. Yeah, because it says here that it is still going to deplete in 4 minutes and 40 seconds. And if you heard on the stream this sound, this is when your capacitor reaches 25%. This is a warning that you need to do something immediately and balance your capacitor before it goes below 25%, because after that it would be much harder to recover, since you have peak regeneration at 25%, and with especially small ships, management of capacitor might be a little bit tricky. For example, here activation cost of this module is 18 gigajoules, whereas we have in total 300, so this module single activation takes us down by 6%, basically. So if we are at 31% and we activate this module, then we go down to 25 immediately. And if we were at 26 and we go down 6%, then we go to 20, and that is already bad. Okay, here we have again special restrictions. I can only fly it in Vigil. I will not be able to fly Rigter. Yeah, so in this mission we need to take this Vigil and basically do a suicide run. So they say that the ship will basically that will somehow set up those charges, but I have some suspicion that it will go differently. There is no information that we will have to take any special actions. And as you can see, actually Vigil has 5 cubic meter of drone bay. So this is one of the ships in Minmatar where you might want to check these interfaces. I'm flying completely empty ship. I'm certain that there will be no need for guns. But if there will be something, then I can always warp out and get back and refit it. As you can see, now that I have this display empty slot selected, we have indications that we have 2 empty slots and 5 middle slots and then 2 low slots. So this ship is electronic warfare frigate. You can see that it has target painter bonuses. So even with not very high skills, this ship can use target painter level 1 more efficiently than a trained pilot can use target painter 2 on any other ship. So this kind of support ships are quite frequent in EVE Online. Basically, most tiers of hull sizes have some kind of... Okay, I need to approach this one. Let's see if we will get destroyed by those GST hijackers. So far they are not aggressing us, which is interesting. they don't really care at all. If you don't know how to enable this tactical overlay, this is done with this button on the left. And yeah, so we have just been destroyed. Our ship wiped out completely, and we have ended up in a pod. As you can see, I'm not in a rush to do anything specific about this. Normally, when you are in a PvP situation, you want to warp out when you are in a pod as fast as possible. But for most NPCs, they will not attack you. So this escape pod is pretty safe, even if your ship is destroyed. And this escape pod basically contains all our implants, our current body. You can see that our character screen, our limited ocular filter implant is fine. Also, you can see that we have received 38,000 ISK in payment for insurance. So every time your ship is destroyed, you will get something paid. In this case, we are getting default insurance of 40% of the estimated value of the ship. This estimated value is more or less abstract number, so it's not actual market or fair market price or anything. But the point is that if you are flying Tech 1 ships, then getting insurance, especially if you're flying them in PvP, might cut on your losses significantly. Because when you do that, when you do insure your ship, in PvP you almost guarantee that you will get destroyed within 3 months of flying it. If you don't, you can feel lucky and just forget about it. But the payment is 30% of this estimate, so we would have had to pay slightly about 100 upfront. And then if we were destroyed, we would have had this 100 and something back, plus the same amount, plus this default payment. You can see information about insurances here in Insurance tab, where you can basically click on any ship, right click, insure, and then you have some warning about insurance terms. You should really read this and understand why this happens. And then and then you are presented with different options. So for the Rigter, basic insurance is just 10% and payout 172. And then Platinum is 103 and payout at 345. And you can see that even for Rigter, this is not really anywhere close to the price of the hull. Market price for the Rigter hull is estimated at 510,000, so nowadays it doesn't cover everything anymore. Now they ask us to use civilian warp disruptor on a pirate. This is basically a tutorial how to use warp disruptors. Well, I will still keep the booster in case, but I will have to switch the resistance, and I will add this civilian warp disruptor. Where is it? I need to accept that first. I don't believe that this will be really uncatchable even with Afterburner. Yeah, the core point of this mission is that you have this civilian warp disruptor installed and that you need to get to the target and activate it. Let's see. Warp disrupting have been changed a little bit in recent time, like this year basically. The warp disruption prevention mechanic, the warp core stabilizers, have been changed from being passive modules to active modules, and I have not yet tested how that works, so I cannot tell you exactly what to expect there. But other than that, if you want to kill someone in player versus player combat, you need to have either Warp Disruptor or you need to have a Warp Scrambler module. The difference between two is that Warp Disruptor has higher range, basically in this case it's 20 kilometers, as the Scrambler is, I think, by default around 9. And then there is so-called Warp Scramble trends. You can see that here it lists as 0, but in reality Disruptors have it at 1 and Scramblers by default have it at 2. And then the third difference is that when you have Disruptor on your target, the target can still use micro warp drive, so it does not prevent them from actually fleeing by speed. Whereas when you have Scramble on your target, so you can only use Afterburner. I need to approach Fleeing Pirate. And yes, please don't shoot me, I'll leave, just let me go. Actually, we don't need to have to do anything about that, so we're just docking. You can see this animation. This is what it looks like when somebody disrupts your warp. So what I told about those points, it is important because warp core stabilizers give you those stabilization points. So I think now you have to have basically previously you had to have one warp core stabilizer for Disruptor, and then 2 warp core stabilizers to avoid normal Scrambler, and then faction versions of Scramblers were even harder than that. They were 3 points, so you had to have 3 modules. And then of course people who have ships dedicated to tackling, which are dedicated to prevention of warp, they will have multiple of those modules installed, so those don't really help a lot. But they can save you sometimes. Now we are being told how to use civilian shield booster. This is specifically the remote shield booster. So these are logistics modules. Yes. What happened here? Nah, because it's a civilian version. We need to have... Yeah, we now have the compact one here. You can see the civilian version has more requirements for CPU, so I failed to fit it. Now, yeah, civilian small remote shield booster. We need to accept this mission to get one, and we need to unload one of the guns, because this module requires a high slot for operation, and it doesn't use a turret slot, and it requires extra 56 CPU units, just a lot. Well, let's put this offline because we really probably are not going, we will not have need for shooting. And you can see that it has optimal range and range within parameters also. So this module is effectively using our energy, our capacitor, and it will restore shields on a remote target, basically like healing spell in an MMO game. Let's warp there. A thing about shield transfer, and actually also armor transfer or capacitor transfer, is that it takes really a lot of energy from the ship that does the transfer, and those modules are quite short range if you don't use them on a dedicated healer ship. So basically the problem is that if you have you have to use a lot of energy, so you have a not very combat capable ship, and if you were to fit well, just any ship for the purpose of healing someone, then you will end up with a situation where you will be bringing yourself into the fray. The enemies will be very easily able to basically target you, lock you, disrupt your ability to heal, and actually destroy you. So for that purpose, in the game, the Tech 2, the professional logistic ships, they have bonuses on the distance of this shield and energy transfers, which allows them to stay much further away from the people they heal. And this allows fleet commanders to make such configuration where you will have basically your enemies, then your ships, and then behind your ships you will have, well, from perspective of your enemies, you will have the logistic ships. This allows them to be in relative security, so they will have lower tank and basically distance tank in the enemies. Make a stand at the pirate base. Destroy at least one ship and survive for as long as you can against reinforcements that come. We will be granted one Rigter. And we are not allowed to leave until our ship is destroyed after we kill at least someone. So we will have to make a sacrificial Rigter for that purpose. We will assemble it, change name, so that whoever sees us in the directional scanner will not see who is flying this ship. And we need to put some guns on it. I think it would be enough if we just put 2. And if we will just have a little bit of fusion there, basically, maybe not even whole 100, maybe just 250. No. Let's group them first. Yeah, that's enough. And we probably still want to have an afterburner in case the enemies are really far away. And now, as a final step, because we are certain that we are going to die, we are going to insure our ship. Why not? That's free money. So, because we don't know which one of these Rigters is the one that we want to insure, we will right-click this one and press insure and agree to the terms, and we will use platinum insurance because, well, more money for us to have. And undock. Yeah, and the mission states, never fly anything you cannot afford to lose. This is the motto of EVE Online. Basically, every time you consider flying anything anywhere, be it high-sec space hauling, be it wormhole exploration, be it nullsec, whatever, any PvP encounter, obviously, because PvP is like the core of the place where you will be destroyed. If you are going to abyssal space either, never ever fly anything that you cannot rebuy in like 5 to 6 copies immediately. And yeah, we start with the easy one. And yeah, here you can see, for example, these mercenary fighters, those are not angels. For this ship, it would have been better to use actually phased plasma charge, but we don't have one. And you can see it also uses thermal damage on us. So here you can see that it uses, we shoot it with kinetic and explosive, and this one uses thermal. So our resistances would not have been really efficient either. And it got destroyed, and now we have a lot of ships, like we have battleships, terrorists. I think somebody wants to make a challenge out of this mission and destroy them. And sorry, those show as they are a battleship, but they are not. Yeah, those are cruisers, sorry. Not battleships. And this is correct. So, yeah. You can see that we have been webified, which means that we are not able to really move anywhere. We are at 8.5 meters per second. And then we are also sensor damped. The sensor damping is Galente warfare that reduces our locking range. You can see that our locking is now, well, 2.5 kilometers or so. And our shields are gone. Our armor is slowly melting. And we are into our hull. And we're going to explode. Yep. Now we can dock. Again, after we have been destroyed, NPCs don't aggro at us, didn't try to kill us. That is true for most NPCs in common space, so known space. So the Empires, pirates, they don't attack pods. That is below their honor. And it brings no value actually. It's useless to kill a pod of a capsulator. Even players know that. So if you have a pod with no implants, during PvP situations where you are in a fleet fight, obviously people will focus first on destroying ships rather than destroying pods of people who have been just podded, relieved from their command. And now we have another 200. So yeah, as you can see, we have received insurance, 345,000. So our net was about 242,000 TISC, which were basically granted by these NPCs in addition to the reward that this mission gives. Let's see. Now we are specifically told that our ship will be damaged by electromagnetic damage, and we were granted with 1 meganewton civilian afterburner, which is complete waste of our time. We don't need one. For that purpose I will take Slasher because it's fast, and we also don't really need to do anything about... Oh yeah, that's where the microdrive was. Yeah. So yeah, we don't really need to do anything special about tanking of Slasher, except for maybe adding some armor, because we are going to be getting electromagnetic damage. Let's see if we can find some armor plates, modules that increase our armor health points. If you would simulate this ship, and we look for, okay, 400 steel plates, normal one does not fit into our power grid, it's just too heavy, but rolled tungsten will. And if we go for market details, okay, it's not available. We can do it other way. We can look up the normal one, buy one. Do we need it really? Okay, we can use probably 200s. Two 200s will basically give you the same amount of health points, but they will just take 2 slots. 400mm plate is essentially already a cruiser-sized one. And as you can see, they are quite expensive because they actually use a lot of titanium in production. Roll tungsten. Okay, so if we take 2, you can see that 1 plate increases our armor hit points by a factor of 2.5, and we get basically 4.5 times health points if we just increase it at 2. And this reduces our speed by 300 meters per second, because they slow down your ship, unfortunately. But that's not much. I think we can live with that. So we will buy 2 armor plates, just to make sure that we survive that. And we will fit them, in this case manually. And yeah, we have accepted the mission and undock. This is probably still a very huge overkill what I just did, because I don't believe that this mission will really have that much incoming electromagnetic damage, because it is supposed to be completed with 1 meganewton civilian afterburner and probably more in a more or less, well, either Corvette or just unfitted Rigter. And now we need to reach asteroid station. Yep. Just enable the micro warp drive. Okay, even our shields will hold that. And we're done. Dock. I wouldn't say this was a complete waste. We can take these modules to JITA or to any place and sell them. At the worst case, we can recycle them for tritanium. Weapon of choice. Use civilian Gatling autocannon to destroy the pirate. What? No, no, no. No, I'm not going to. I have a Rigter fitted for combat. Why would I want to use civilian Gatling autocannon? And we need to remove this one. Yep, and you can group them when they are already loaded with charges. And yeah, accept. Now that we have found the micro warp drive, actually, I think we can use one, because this will improve our speed significantly. So once again, strip fitting from Slasher. Now that's not in its hangar, it will actually drop to the station cargo. And we're missing some CPU. We are missing 6. That's a little bit of how to fit this ship in the most efficient way type of question. Or let's forget about second chair stabilizer if we can buy another tracking enhancer. Nope, then I guess we're stuck with afterburner for the time being. As you can see, the ship has some reserve and some flexibility, but the most powerful and the most useful modules will always have either high power grid or high CPU requirements, and they will limit your ability to fit everything at once. Especially that's true if you consider the size of the ship. In principle, nothing stops you from plugging in, I would not say battleship-sized, but at least cruiser-sized modules, but they require much more power grid than this. This mission gives you a basic explanation how a player fleet is operated. So in a fleet, you will have a fleet commander, a person designated who is actually commanding the whole operation. And this person will be not only commanding where to fly, but also will give in what is called target calling. Actually, not always fleet commander also does target calling. Sometimes a dedicated person does just that because it's a lot of effort. Target caller will basically tell you nickname of a person that will be primary, the first target that you need to shoot at, and then secondary, that is a person which you need to lock and be ready to shoot at, but only when the primary dies and when secondary becomes primary or announced as such. Okay, in this part, unfortunately, due to Twitch and copyright treatment of different if tracks, the sound has been muted by Twitch, so my original voiceover has been lost, so I will just comment over the silent video what happened here. So I accepted the mission, and the point of mission is to just fly to the destination location and not engaging in violence and following the commands by Concord fleet commander. This of course has nothing to do with actual operations of fleet that are run by pilots in EVE Online, but this is just a demo of how some missions can actually be completed without shooting anything at all. Not all of them. So here I have warped in, and I need to activate the gate to get into the first pocket. And at the moment when I do that, I get information from Concord Captain explaining the situation, which I accidentally closed very quickly, so I don't really know what's there. But judging from the situation on the other side of this gate, it is just, well, classical hostage situation where I need to just go straight there. And meanwhile, I think I was trying to explain some more things about fleet warfare, but instead I will just record a separate introduction on how to be a good pilot that operates within player's fleet and what are the basics, what commands and understandings, commands and slang that you need to understand before you can do that efficiently. It's actually not very difficult. Sometimes people call pilots who operate in fleet F1 monkeys, basically because the primary activities that you do in a fleet is just pressing F1 at a given target. But it's a little bit more complicated than that in reality, and especially when it is not a big fleet in a Empire versus Empire fight, but rather a small roaming of pilots, then it can become quite skill intensive. Okay, yeah, as you can see, so the whole mission is to just approach this container and loot it, and then dock up. There have been no shooting and no engagement whatsoever, and we're safely returning back to the docking station. Okay, this next mission, we are being told that we need to use a Stasis Webifier to assist Concord in catching a criminal and interrogating it. In principle, there is nothing really special about this civilian Stasis Webifier. It is just a module that you plug in. I think the only difference between the real one and this civilian version is that it requires no skills. But it is actually much less efficient. Civilian Stasis Webifiers are used as modules very actively on especially PvP ships, but also in PvE they are quite useful for ships that focus on close range combat. And for that, the primary reason is that when you have a large ship, you want your targets to be having as little angular velocity around you, And the primary way to achieve that, given that you cannot really ask frigate to stay in place, you have to slow it down. And even a slowed down frigate of NPC will probably be still faster than your cruiser, so they will control the distance, but their orbital speed will be much lower, and because of that it would be proportionally easier for you to hit. Some ships in EVE Online also feature quite significant bonuses. For example, this civilian status Webifier cuts speed by 35%, which is nothing. Real modules start at 50%, and then Tech 2 version has 60% Webification strength. And then some ships have hull bonuses that multiply this percentage, and some of them end up with Webification strength of 90%. At this point, even if your enemy uses micro warp drive, even if they have basically a very fast ship, one activation of this Stasis Webifier on them and they are basically pinned in place already. And as you can see, the mission is basically just fly straight using your propulsion module. Micro warp drive here would have been quite handy, but this NPC is not really fast, and you just need to approach it and lock it and wait until you get into 10-kilometer range. And yes, the reason why they work well with scramblers in PvP is because scramblers disable micro warp drive, and with Stasis Webifier on top of that, your target ship is basically unable to move anywhere, even with Afterburner. Because Afterburner will multiply the speed by 2 something, and then Stasis Webifier will cut that by a factor of 2 something, depending on the version of the Stasis Webifier you use, or if you have some specialized hull that will give your Stasis Webifier a factor of Webification of 90%, so it will cut speed of the target by a factor of 10 effectively, then you don't really need a scrambler anymore. And the exam. What? And we will be granted treasure. Okay. Since we will be granted treasure, maybe it's a good time to switch to one. It's a shame that we used these rigs. They were not really useful. Turns out those missions were not as hard and didn't require any tanking, really. So let's start with that. Also, we will extract all the modules from the cargo in case. And once again, strip fitting, just if something I forgot to strip. And now let's see a treasure. Yeah, you can see right from the start that treasure has a lot of gun slots and a lot of gun mounting points. Actually, we have 7, and I think we have 8 high slots, so which means that we have still 1 extra utility, which we're not going to use at this moment. And do we have some more 125 guns? No. Yeah, and we wasted 2 of those guns when we went out for a suicidal mission. Let's see if we have something on the market available. Yes, we have. So we can buy 4 more to make this ship into a real powerhouse. This ship is actively used by, or at least it was actively used by solo gankers to destroy small vessels, because if you fit it with artillery cannons, it has such a high alpha strike that it can basically one-shot a target ship. And this is what is the goal of ganking. You need to destroy the target before you are destroyed by Concord, and you preferably don't want to leave any synergy chance, so single shot kills are preferable. Preloaded is fusion. As you can see, we immediately get to 92.9 DPS. This ship is way tougher, and our health points are also way up. We need one afterburner, and then compact explosive, and then small shield booster still. And you can see also that it has pretty similar characteristics in terms of capacitor recharge rate, but it has much larger initial buffer. So we have 1 minute and 16 seconds of capacitor stability, even if we don't plug in any capacitor regeneration modules. And I think in this case we're going to run with that. So instead of having any extra tank, let's try to fit those damage modules and get to 130 damage per second, which is extremely high amount of damage. And let's just stick with this. At some point we'll just switch it to Ancillary Buster, and this will probably be the way to go. I think I will try to fit micro warp drive. Yes, that works. That's perfect. You can see that with micro warp drive, this one has 1400 meters per second. So it is slower than both frigates, but still, because it's one size up, it is tougher and it has more guns, and it's still very good at destroying frigate-sized ships. Kills the terrorist leader. Yep. Warp to location. Also, I didn't check what type of pirates will be there. It doesn't say. Since it says terrorists and it says it doesn't indicate that those are angel terrorists, I would start with phased plasma because I believe it should be a mercenary ship. Yes, and you can see by the background, those are indeed mercenaries, but the terrorist leader is not. So we will first start by shooting down these. I don't have a lot of... Yeah, but we will be able to still reach our optimal range very nicely with this. Even though we are being stasis webified and actually warp disrupted, this one is a dangerous mission. If you do something wrong here, you might actually die because you will not be able to just get out of this. And now I'm switching to fusion. As you can see, Warp Disruptor does not prevent me from using micro warp drive, and actually NPC ships never use warp scramblers, so for the purpose of reaching your target, you don't really care. Done. And since I have completed the advanced military career, I would like to wrap this segment up. And in the next segment, I will continue with introduction to hauling. I will explain how to make ships that is capable of hauling at least some values around high security space, what you can do with alpha skills and the ones that you are starting with. And after that, I will present also a small tutorial on exploration. I will find and hack a real data site, not a training one, and give some more hints on how to do that fast and efficient way. So tune for the next parts and subscribe to YouTube channel, like this video, dislike it if you have some negative opinions, leave comments in the comment section, ask your questions, and as usual, yours, Unkind Omen. See you in the next stream.